Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In this video, we will continue looking at the night sky during September. However, we will be looking into the north and catching up with a planet that has just started to become visible. In a previous video, we took a look down to the south, and the stars in the south can change quite a lot with the seasons. As well as the stars, there is planet Saturn down to the south at this time of the year. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can take a look at the previous video. For now, we're going to turn around into the north using this little orange-yellow glow of sunset to help us. If that orange-yellow glow is on your left-hand side, then you will be facing north. And looking into the northern sky, you might already spot the North Star. It's directly above north, and it is about halfway up in the sky if you're at the same latitude as Ireland. It's about halfway between the horizon and the zenith. We'll talk more about the maths and angles in detail in a later video. For now, we're going to get just a little bit later so we can see a few more of the stars. We're certainly starting to see a very famous shape down here towards the northwest on the left-hand side of the North Star. And on the other side, a little higher in the sky, we have this shape. This is the constellation of Cassiopeia, and it is shaped like a W. But we're missing the end of the W here. If we take a closer look, and if you're looking at the stars at least, even a binoculars can show you a little bit more. Now we can see this sort of wonky W shape of Cassiopeia, the constellation. On the other side of the North Star, this shape in the sky is normally 7 stars, but one of them is a little tricky to see with the naked eye if you are in a brighter part of the city. Taking a closer look, and now that extra star is visible. We can see 7 stars in this very famous shape known as the plough or the Big Dipper. Some people call it the pot, the spoon, the saucepan, the carriage, the coach. There are a lot of different names. But these 7 stars can have a lot of different names because they aren't an official constellation. The plough or the Big Dipper is a shape known as an asterism, a famous or useful group of stars that isn't one of the official 88 constellations. We actually mentioned an asterism in the previous video, the Summer Triangle. That's an asterism as well. Looking closely into the northern sky, we can see there are a few other bright stars here that are definitely visible once we've taken a closer look. They flesh out the full shape of the constellation Ursa Major, the Big Bear. So this full collection of stars is the constellation. These 7 are the famous asterism, and of course those 7 are a little bit more recognizable and they're easier to see in a brightly lit sky. But it is also these 2 stars, what would be the front of the plough or the middle of the bear's back. Those are the stars you need to follow to get up to the North Star. And if we're looking at the stars in the city, it's really as easy as that. It is useful to know that it's roughly 5 times this gap to get all the way up to the North Star. That can help make sure you find the correct one. But in the city, there's not much else to mix it up with. This will change if we move out into the countryside. Taking away the light pollution of the city lets us see a lot more stars, but that also means there's more stars that you could mistake for the North Star as you follow that path through the sky. So making sure you have 5 times this gap as you come up to the North Star, that's going to make things a little bit easier. We can also see the shape of Ursa Major a little bit more clearly here. Those stars are a little faint in the city, but they're quite clear if you're in the countryside. And you can also follow a similar shape from the North Star itself. This is widely known as the Little Dipper, although there isn't really a little plough equivalent, and it is related to Ursa Major, the Big Bear. It is Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Now, of course, that's not a very good drawing of a bear. The lines between the stars that make up sort of the skeleton of the constellation, they're not the full picture, which would be something like this. The art around the constellations can take a bit of interpretation, and in many cases, it's just something you have to learn. This triangle with a little flag on it doesn't look much like the giraffe it is meant to represent, but this is Camelopardus, the giraffe, the same way Ursa Minor is the little bear and Ursa Major is the big bear. That W we pointed out earlier on the other side of the North Star is Queen Cassiopeia sitting on her throne. So that W definitely takes a bit of imagination to turn into this vain queen. We can see her looking at herself reflected in a mirror. All of these constellations have stories and myths and legends associated with them, and the ones I'm showing here are just the modern ones, mostly deriving from Greek and Roman myths. There are many more stories and many more cultural associations with the stars from different places, but that will have to wait for another video. For now, we are going to move back into the city so we can concentrate on the brightest and most prominent stars, especially the shape of the Plough or the Big Dipper. Although you can see it towards the north all year round, where you see it in the north does vary. Not just with the time of year, but with the time of night. So early in the evening in September, we're still here at about 9:30. It's going to be over towards the northwest. However, if we move through the night and up towards tomorrow morning, well, now it's after spinning around towards the northeast. Well, it's not after spinning around, we are. As the Earth turns, the stars appear to move in the sky. And because the Earth turns around the north-south polar axis, what lines up with that, the North Star, doesn't appear to move. So the North Star will stay visible in the north sky for several thousand more years. It will be our North Star. And if you want to find that individual star, the shape of the Plough or the Big Dipper is one of the best ways to do it. So the northern sky, it is going to be reasonably consistent. You'll see the same things pretty much every night, although it can change a little if you are at different latitudes. The closer you are to the equator, the more often shapes like the Plough or Cassiopeia will disappear below the horizon. I will very briefly point out the shape of the Andromeda Galaxy again, as it is pretty visible in the south. So we're coming back into our darker sky here. We're actually seeing the back of the summer triangle, Deneb and Vega there. Altair would be below the horizon. There's Cassiopeia up nice and high. And just past Cassiopeia is the Andromeda Galaxy, which we took a closer look at in the last video. So if you are out in a nice dark sky with this fuzzy glow of the Milky Way visible, you can follow the Plough through to the North Star, take a beat, look for that W shape, and go from the North Star through that W shape, and you will land pretty close to the Andromeda Galaxy. Again, it's difficult to see in the city, but if you have a telescope or binoculars, that will give you a better chance. We'll move back into the city for our final object, another planet visible in the sky. You might know from the previous video that Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus are all visible in the sky at this time of the year. So we're looking over here to the east. There's Venus, Jupiter is up there, and Saturn just set as we saw it at the start of the show. If we keep moving forward, another planet will rise. The smallest planet in our solar system, Mercury. Mercury is a very, very difficult planet to observe. It only pops up very close to sunrise or to sunset, and due to its very quick year, it's only visible in the morning or in the evening for a short period of time at a time before it disappears before or in front of the sun. We're going to take a closer look at Mercury here as if we had a telescope, and you can see we're getting a crescent Mercury. We're seeing more of the nighttime side than the daytime side, and that means Mercury is pretty much between us and the sun. However, over the next few days, Mercury will continue moving around to the side until we have this lovely half Mercury pretty much on the morning of the 22nd, so the morning of a culture night here in Cork, and a little bit on the morning of the 23rd, the next morning as well. When Mercury looks like a half, it is at its greatest elongation. It's standing out its furthest from the sun, which means it's highest above the horizon at sunset or sunrise. We're looking at it at sunrise at this time of the year. It is best, if you want to point your telescope at Mercury, do it when it's at its greatest elongation. You'll have a better chance of seeing it in a darker sky. As soon as the sun really starts to rise, you can see that orange-yellow glow is very much around Mercury. That's going to put a lot of light through your telescope, which can damage your eye and potentially your telescope as well. We'll keep moving forward to see Mercury start to fade away. You can see that it is quite a faint object. Mercury is certainly a lot fainter than the brightest star, Sirius. But it is also going to disappear quite quickly. If we bring ourselves a little bit closer to nighttime again and move forward just about another week, we'll see Mercury start to drop down closer to the horizon as it begins to move around the back of the sun. So Mercury is a very, very tricky planet to catch. It's always low in the sky. It's always only in the evening or only in the morning. You do have to be quite quick. But I do wish you the very, very best of luck. And that brings us up to date with all of the planets that are visible in the sky at this time of the year. Hopefully we'll get a chance to look at Mars very soon as well. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like it, and I'd love if you subscribe to this channel if you're interested in stars and planets. You can also keep up with this channel on the queeveenscontent.ie website. So I hope you get a chance to see these objects in the sky. I'll see you next time.